Tonight, we leave behind the silver screen legends and venture into the authentic American West of the 1800. Forget the dashing heroes with their clean hats and quick-draw heroics. We're seeking a far more grounded truth. Our journey takes us to the vast, open plains where the horizon is a lonely, unbroken line and the air itself is thick with the taste of dust. Here, survival was not a glamorous adventure, but a grueling test of will, a daily battle waged against an unforgiving landscape. This is the world of the real cowboy, a life stripped of romance and defined by the relentless rhythm of hard labor, where the only certainty was the rising and setting of a merciless sun over an endless expanse of earth and sky. Before we fully surrender to the past, I want to extend a warm welcome to fellow travelers on this journey. Your presence here adds to the story, and I'm always curious to know where these tales are landing. If you feel so inclined, leave a small note to share your location and the time of night you're listening in. It's a way for us to connect across the miles. Now, allow the world around you to fade away. Find that perfect position of comfort and release the day's tensions. Let each slow, deep breath pull you further from the present, allowing your body to grow heavy and your mind to become quiet, preparing to receive the whispers of a time long since past. Imagine this. With no gentle alarm, you have awoken into the year 1870. The first sensation is the sharp, pristine cold of the pre-dawn air, a stark contrast to the lingering warmth of your own breath. As your eyes slowly blink open, they adjust to a world painted in the pale, ethereal light of a new day. You are not in a soft bed, but lying upon a simple bedroll, its thin canvas a meager shield against the unyielding, hard-packed earth below. The ground offers no comfort, no gift, and it has molded your sleep into a restless collection of short-lived dreams, leaving you to greet the morning with a sense of profound weariness before the day's work has even begun. A profound ache radiates from the small of your back, a familiar and unwelcome companion that greets you each morning under this vast, star-littered sky. Around you, the quiet camp begins to stir. Dark, huddled shapes resolve into your fellow cowboys, each man rising from his own patch of hard ground, wrapped in the shared solitude of another day on the trail. Every muscle in your body protests as you push yourself into a sitting position, a sharp reminder of the 14 grueling hours you just spent in the saddle. The soreness is not a temporary affliction, but a permanent state of being, a constant tax levied on your body by the relentless demands of the drive. Your own body serves as a living map of this unforgiving life. Your legs, after years of gripping the flanks of a horse, have taken on a distinct bow shape, a permanent testament to your profession. Your hands are a portrait of hard labor, the skin calloused into a tough leather, cross-hatched with the silvery scars of old rope burns, and cracked from the constant assault of sun, wind, and relentless work. These are not the hands of a hero from a storybook. They are the tools of a laborer, shaped and hardened by the endless, repetitive tasks that define your existence and ensure your survival in this rugged world, one grueling day at a time. This specific journey has already etched 3 long weeks into the calendar. You are part of a sprawling, slow-moving enterprise tasked with pushing a massive herd of 2,000 Texas longhorns ever northward. The destination, a distant railhead in Abilene, Kansas, still feels like a dream, a place that exists only in conversation. If the fickle weather remains calm and the notoriously skittish herd doesn't find a reason to bolt in a terrifying, thundering stampede, you have at least 3 more weeks of this punishing pace ahead of you. The distance is not just measured in miles, but in the patience and vigilance required to traverse it. Just as the deep-seated weariness threatens to pull you back down, a new scent cuts through the cold morning, pulling you fully into the present. The rich, potent aroma of coffee brewing. It's a lifeline. Over at the chuck wagon, the silhouette of Cookie, the camp cook, is already framed against his growing fire. As he prepares the morning's breakfast, you know him as perhaps the grumpiest, most cantankerous man you have ever had the misfortune to meet. But in this moment, as the smell of those precious beans boiling in a large metal pot reaches you, he seems like a divine messenger, an angel sent to deliver salvation in a cup. The trail boss's voice, a gravelly force of nature, worn rough by years of shouting commands over the howling wind and the lowing of cattle, slices through the camp's quiet murmur. Rise and shine, boys, he bellows, a command that is both a greeting and an ultimatum. Sun's coming up, and them cows ain't going to move themselves. His words are a stark reminder of the fundamental truth of this life. The work is endless, the landscape is indifferent, and nothing happens without the direct, physical effort of the men he commands. The brief reprieve of the night is officially over, and the relentless machinery of the cattle drive grinds back into motion. You run your fingers through your hair, feeling the familiar grit and oil that has accumulated over many days without the luxury of a proper wash. The bandana tied loosely around your neck, currently a simple comfort, will soon become an essential filter pulled up over your nose and mouth to ward off the choking clouds of dust that are an inevitable part of the day. Beside your bedroll sits your Stetson hat, a tool far more than an accessory. Battered by relentless sun and sudden downpours, it still holds its essential shape, its wide brim the only thing standing between the skin on your face and the merciless solar rays that would otherwise peel it away. The camp is now a collection of 15 other cowboys, each man folding his bedroll and pulling on his boots with practiced efficiency. These are tough men, a mosaic of humanity, drawn from every corner of a nation, still healing from war and expanding into new territories. Among them are former slaves from the Deep South, seeking a freedom here they couldn't find elsewhere, and skilled Mexican. Despite the rich tapestry of their backgrounds, the different languages, skin colors, and life stories that brought them to this remote stretch of prairie, the trail acts as a great equalizer. Out here, a man's past is of little consequence. Social standing, education, and origin stories fade into irrelevance. They are all simply cowboys, bound by a common purpose. They face the exact same ever-present dangers, from stampedes to river crossings, and they endure the exact same miserable conditions, from the monotonous food to the hard ground. And for this shared hardship, they are all paid the same meager wage, their equality forged in mutual struggle. Before you dare to put on your boots, you perform a ritual that has become second nature, a small act of self-preservation, repeated every single morning. You grasp each boot firmly by its top and shake it with vigor, listening for the telltale rattle of an unwanted guest. This is a habit born not of superstition, but of painful experience. The warm, dark interior of a cowboy's boot is an irresistible haven for scorpions and spiders seeking refuge from the night's chill. You learned long ago, as have many others, that this simple 2-second shake can be the crucial difference between a pain-free day and one filled with the agony of a venomous sting or bite. The tough, worn leather of your boots has, over months of relentless wear, perfectly molded to the unique contours of your feet. Their specific design is a masterclass in function over fashion. The toes are pointed and narrow, not for style, but to allow for quick and safe entry into the stirrups. The heels are tall and angled, a crucial feature that serves a vital purpose. Far from being for show, those heels are designed to lock securely into the stirrup, preventing your foot from dangerously sliding forward and getting trapped, especially during the violent, unpredictable movements of a spooked or bucking horse. They are a piece of safety equipment, pure and simple. Breakfast in 5 cookies voice booms across the steadily awakening camp, a declaration that carries its own implicit warning. You want hot food, you'd best get here before it's gone. There is no ambiguity in his tone, and no one needs a second invitation. A hot meal is a rare and precious commodity, and the fear of it running out is a powerful motivator. You quickly tuck your still-rolled bedding under one arm and make your way toward the center of camp life. The chuck wagon joining the quiet, orderly line of men who are all drawn by the same fundamental need for a warm meal to fortify them against the long day ahead. The chuck wagon stands as a testament to frontier ingenuity, an impressive and self-contained mobile headquarters for the entire outfit. At its heart, it is a sturdy army surplus wagon, but it has been ingeniously modified by a rancher named Charles Goodnight, who invented this mobile kitchen less than a decade ago. A large, upright box, known as the chuck box, is attached to the back. Its clever arrangement of drawers and shelves, holding all the essential food supplies, heavy cooking equipment, and even a small stock of basic medical provisions. This invention has completely revolutionized life on the trail, a mobile pantry and kitchen that makes these long-distance drives possible. Before the advent of the chuck wagon, a cowboy's sustenance was limited to what little he could carry in his own saddlebags, typically just some dried meat and hard biscuits. The difference it makes is profound. As you reach the front of the line, Cookie, with his usual lack of ceremony, slaps a durable metal plate into your outstretched hands. He then heaps it with a familiar serving of pinto beans and crispy bacon, the steam rising invitingly in the cool air. It is the exact same meal you consumed yesterday and the day before that, and you have no doubt it is what you will be eating again tomorrow, a monotonous but reliable fuel for the body. While eating your breakfast, you find a spot on the ground, which is still cool from the night, and watch as the eastern sky continues its slow transformation from pale gray to a vibrant, promising canvas of light. There's a certain stillness in the air that tells you it's going to be another scorcher of a day, the heat building relentlessly until midday. But the good news, the real blessing, is the complete absence of clouds on the horizon. Rain might sound like a pleasant reprieve after days of choking dust, but for a cowboy on the open prairie, a thunderstorm is the ultimate nightmare, a terrifying display of nature's fury. Nothing can spook a herd of 2,000 cattle into a blind, uncontrollable stampede faster than a sudden, violent crack of lightning tearing through the sky. When that happens, if you are lucky, it only means hours of the most dangerous riding imaginable, a desperate, high-speed chase in chaotic conditions to regain control of the terrified animals. If you're unlucky, you get caught in their path. The memory of your friend, Jackson, still makes your stomach clench into a tight, cold knot. He was trampled 2 years ago, his horse stumbling during a furious night stampede. And you've seen firsthand what 2,000 frightened longhorns can do to a man. You about done daydreaming, the amused voice of Diego, one of the veteran vaqueros, gently pulls you from the dark corridors of your memory. His dark, knowing eyes crinkle at the corners, beneath the wide brim of his sombrero, as he gives you a slight nod. Boss says we're moving out in 10 minutes. The reminder is all it takes. You quickly gulp down the last of your coffee, the hot liquid creating a pleasant, burning trail all the way down to your stomach. Time is the one resource that is always in short supply on the trail, and the crew operates on a schedule dictated by the sun and the needs of the herd, not the desires of the men. Your entire worldly existence is contained within the compact cylinder of your bedroll, which you now roll tightly with the practiced, efficient movements of long habit. Inside this canvas and wool bundle is everything you own: a single spare shirt, an extra pair of precious socks, a small, treasured bag of tobacco for rare moments of repose, your straight razor, and a tattered, carefully preserved photograph of your mother, its edges soft with time. It is a life stripped down to its barest essentials, a transient existence where home is not a place, but something you carry with you, ready to be unrolled at the end of each punishing day. Tucked carefully into the leather of your boot is the sum total of your earnings for more than a month of this back-breaking labor. $35. It feels like a pitifully small amount for the risks you take and the hardships you endure daily. However, this modest wage represents survival. It's just enough money to ensure you have food to eat and, more importantly, a solid roof over your head during the harsh winter months when the great cattle drives come to a halt and the available work on ranches slows to a trickle. It's not a fortune, but it is the fragile barrier that stands between you and destitution. With your bedroll strapped securely behind your saddle, you turn your full attention to the most important partner you have in this life, your horse. This gelding has been your steady mount for 3 years, a reliable creature with good cow sense, that innate, almost psychic ability to anticipate the movement of cattle. You run your calloused hands down each of his powerful legs, feeling meticulously for any sign of swelling or unusual heat that might betray a hidden injury. Out here, a lame horse is more than an inconvenience. It represents a potential death sentence, not just for the animal, but for its rider as well. With the trail boss's sharp command of mount up ringing across the campsite, the quiet morning routine erupts into a final flurry of purposeful activity. Men swiftly conclude their preparations, cinching saddles and making last-minute checks before swinging up onto their horses. The air is still cool and carries the promise of the coming day's heat as you climb into your own saddle. The familiar, comforting creak of worn leather, a sound as natural to you as your own breathing. Your body settles into the well-worn seat, a position so ingrained that it feels like an extension of your own skeleton, your bones and muscles having been reshaped by years of riding. You gently nudge your horse forward with a slight pressure from your legs, moving to take your assigned place in the day's formation. As a mid-level hand, your responsibility today is to ride the flank. This position requires constant vigilance, your main task being to keep the massive herd from spreading out too wide, maintaining it as a cohesive, flowing unit. It also means you are the one responsible for chasing down any stray cattle that, driven by instinct or stubbornness, decide to break away from the main group and wander off on their own, a constant and repetitive but essential part of the day's work. Ahead of you, the point riders are already guiding the front of the herd away from the bed ground, where the cattle rested overnight. In the growing dawn light, the sheer scale of the herd is a breathtaking sight. You can see the immense, living sea of Texas longhorns, their enormous, curving horns catching the first rays of the sun like a forest of polished daggers. Some of these horns spread an incredible 6 feet or more from tip to tip. These are not the placid, docile beef cattle of a modern farm. These are the half-wild descendants of Spanish stock, tough, lean, and notoriously dangerous when they feel threatened or provoked. The intricate, slow-motion ballet of getting the herd moving commences. It is a work of immense patience and subtle pressure, a coordinated effort that unfolds across the prairie. The point riders begin by circling the front of the herd, their quiet presence creating a suggestion of movement, while the drag riders at the rear gently prod the most reluctant animals to their feet. You take your position along the side, a living wall of horse and man, your own mount already alert and responsive beneath you. This is not a task of brute force, but of deep understanding, a collective reading of the herd's mood, and a synchronized application of influence to coax 2,000 individuals into a single, flowing river of livestock. As the great beast of the herd awakens and begins its slow, thundering march, it unleashes its constant companion, a colossal cloud of fine, airborne dust. This ghostly veil of pulverized earth rises into the air, instantly blanketing the world in a hazy, ochre shroud. You instinctively pull your bandana up over your nose and mouth, a familiar and mostly futile gesture of defense against the relentless grip. The fabric will catch the worst of it, but you know it's a temporary and imperfect shield. The dust is an atmosphere in itself, a third element alongside the sun and wind, and it will be your constant companion from this moment until the day's exhausting end. There is simply no escaping the dust. It is as much a part of this journey as the longhorns themselves. Experience has taught you that by the time the sun sets, you will still be tasting its gritty residue with every single swallow. Your eyes, despite your best efforts to protect them, will be bloodshot and raw, irritated by the fine particles that work their way past your defenses. Your skin, your clothes, your gear, everything will be coated in a fine, pervasive layer of silt that finds its way into every crease and fold of your body. It is a persistent, miserable state of being, a layer of the earth itself that you are forced to wear throughout your waking hours. The sun relentlessly climbs higher in the vast, empty sky, and as the morning progresses, its heat intensifies with each passing hour. By midday, the world transforms into an oven. The air above the prairie grass begins to shimmer and warp, creating mirages of water that mock your thirst. Sweat soaks through your shirt in an instant, only to be evaporated almost immediately by the hot, desiccating wind that offers no relief. Your lips begin to crack and split under the assault, and no amount of water seems capable of quenching the profound thirst that settles deep in your bones. The canteen at your side is a lifeline, but its contents must last until evening. Suddenly, your eye catches movement. A stray yearling, its lean body darting through a gap in the line of riders, making a break for freedom. Without a moment's hesitation, you signal your horse, not with the reins, but with a subtle shift of your own weight and a gentle pressure from your legs. The gelding, your trusted partner, responds instantly, changing direction and accelerating with explosive grace toward the escaping longhorn. In these moments, all the discomfort and monotony of the trail falls away. There is only the pure, exhilarating thrill of the chase, a perfect, unspoken communication between rider and horse, a shared purpose that feels like flight. You close the distance on the yearling with astonishing speed, your rope already uncoiled and swinging in a smooth, practiced arc above your head. With a flick of the wrist, honed by countless repetitions, you release the lariat, watching with satisfaction as the open loop sails through the air and settles perfectly around the animal's neck. Your horse, knowing precisely what comes next, braces its powerful frame as you pull the rope taut, beginning the careful work of turning the stray back toward the massive, moving herd. It is a dangerous and beautiful dance, a fleeting moment of high art performed on a stage of dust and prairie grass, a testament to years of practice, the physical exertion of the chase, and the strain of controlling the yearling sends a fresh wave of aching protest through your already weary arms. This new discomfort simply layers itself upon the general soreness that is the cowboy's constant state of being, a physical burden that never truly disappears. Yet, there is no time for rest or even a moment's recovery. You coil your rope and secure it to your saddle, your eyes already scanning the herd. Sure enough, on the far side of the vast column of cattle, another stray is making a bold dash for freedom, and one of your fellow cowboys is already racing at full gallop to intercept it. The work never pauses. The trail boss is a master of pace, setting a steady, deliberate rhythm for the entire outfit. He aims to cover approximately 15 miles before making camp for the night, a distance that might sound modest to an outsider. However, moving 2,000 head of semi-wild cattle across the open country is an incredibly slow and painstaking process. If you push them too fast, the animals will lose precious weight, diminishing their value when they finally reach the market in Abilene. But if you move too slowly, you risk disastrous consequences like running short on water or grass, or worse, being caught by the early, brutal winter storms farther north. As the sun begins its slow, majestic descent toward the western horizon, your weary thoughts naturally turn toward the evening ahead and the small comforts it promises. The vision of the camp, even in its rough simplicity, becomes a beacon of hope. There will be another meal, almost certainly the familiar beans and bacon, perhaps elevated with warm biscuits if cookie. The camp cook is feeling particularly generous. And, of course, there will be coffee so potent and black that the cowboys have a running joke that you could stand a spoon straight up in it. It is these small, predictable pleasures that make the long days bearable. Beyond the simple comforts of food and drink, your mind turns to the ever-present responsibility of the night watch. This is a duty that every man in the outfit must take his turn performing, a sacred trust that ensures the safety of the entire operation. Standing guard over the massive, sleeping herd through the long, dark hours, you must remain perpetually alert. The vigil is a defense against a host of potential threats: cunning predators like wolves or coyotes, brazen rustlers hoping to steal cattle under the cover of darkness, or even just a sudden, strange noise that could startle the herd into a deadly stampede. Tonight, you've been assigned the second watch, which means you'll be woken around midnight after getting a few precious hours of sleep. It isn't the ideal shift. The third watch, which runs from the deepest part of the night until dawn, allows for a longer, more uninterrupted block of rest beforehand. However, it is certainly preferable to drawing the first watch. That shift comes immediately after dinner, leaving you fighting a desperate battle against drowsiness in the saddle for the rest of the night, and making it nearly impossible to stay properly awake and alert during the following day's long and grueling ride. The trail boss signals for the herd to be angled slightly eastward, guiding them toward a small, winding creek that should provide the essential water for the night. The ability to find and select a proper bed ground is one of the most critical skills a trail boss possesses. A suitable site must meet several criteria. It needs a reliable water source, enough surrounding grass to feed 2,000 hungry cattle, and, ideally, some advantageous natural features like a gentle rise of land or a thicket of trees that can help contain the herd and make the night watch a little easier and more secure for the men on duty. As the sun finally kisses the horizon, painting the vast, open sky in breathtaking strokes of brilliant orange, fiery red, and deep purple, the day's long and arduous ride at last comes to a conclusion. The cattle, their thirst heightened after many hours of dusty movement, eagerly press forward toward the welcoming sight and sound of the creek. The cowboys expertly position themselves around the sprawling herd, forming a loose but controlled perimeter. Their task now is to ensure that the animals don't crowd too tightly at the water's edge, a situation that could lead to injury, or wander too far in search of better grazing. You dismount with a heavy groan, your legs feeling stiff, sore, and strangely alien after 14 continuous hours, locked in the familiar shape of the saddle. The solid ground feels unsteady beneath your feet, and you walk with the slightly rolling, bow-legged gait that is the unmistakable mark of a career cowboy. But no matter how exhausted or hungry you are, your first priority is always your horse. The unwritten but sacred code of the trail dictates that your mount's needs come before your own. You carefully remove the heavy saddle and bridle, your hands methodically checking the animal again for any injuries. With the day's ride over, the cowboys converge on the chuck wagon, the irresistible smell of cooking food, drawing them in like moths to a flame. Their profound fatigue is momentarily forgotten, overshadowed by the primal anticipation of a hot meal. You join the quiet line, exchanging tired, wordless nods with your companions. After a long day on the trail, words are a scarce and unnecessary commodity. The shared experience of hardship and exhaustion creates a silent understanding that requires no conversation. Everyone is simply too drained for idle chatter, their focus narrowed to the simple, vital act of refueling their bodies. With your plate in hand, you find a spot to sit, your body sinking gratefully to the cool ground. The meal of beans and bacon, though monotonous, tastes more delicious than the finest fare from a fancy restaurant, its flavor amplified by the intense, gnawing hunger in your belly. You eat slowly now, a stark contrast to the morning's hurried meal. You savor each and every bite, fully aware that once the food is gone, the profound exhaustion you've been holding at bay will return, and the blessed relief of sleep will be calling your name. Around you, the other men do the same, many already lying back on their bedrolls. As the last vestiges of daylight fade and darkness settles completely over the prairie, the first shift of the night watch prepares to ride out. 4 men move with quiet efficiency, mounting their horses and moving slowly to take up their positions around the vast perimeter of the now settled herd. Soon, you can hear them singing softly to the cattle, their voices carrying through the still night air. A cowboy's singing voice might not win any accolades in a town saloon, but out here on the lonely plains, it serves a crucial, practical purpose. The steady, rhythmic sound helps to keep the thousands of half-wild animals calm and reassured. This is the moment. Lying on your bedroll, with your saddle for a pillow, you gaze up at the heavens and feel a profound sense of wonder that almost makes the whole enterprise worthwhile. Beneath a spectacular canopy of stars, so numerous and brilliant they seem close enough to touch, the hardships of a cowboy's life momentarily fade away. The vast, silent openness of the frontier stretches out in every direction, and the soft, shuffling sounds of the contented cattle and horses provide a peaceful, rhythmic background. In these quiet moments, you feel a sense of absolute freedom that can never be found in the crowded, noisy cities back east. As you lie on the cusp of sleep, your body finally surrendering to its exhaustion, the last thing you consciously hear is the distant, mournful voice of a lone cowboy on watch. His song, a familiar and somber ballad, drifts softly through the cool night air, a shared lullaby for both the resting cattle and the weary men. The lyrics, "Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie," float low and mournfully across the plains, a poignant plea against the lonely death that every man out here secretly fears. Your breathing deepens, your muscles finally release their tension, and you drift into the blessed oblivion of sleep. It feels as if only moments have passed when a rough hand shakes you by the shoulder, pulling you from the profound depths of a heavy, dreamless sleep. Your watch whispers Luis, one of the Mexican vaqueros, his voice a low rumble in the intense darkness. His face is little more than a shadow beneath his hat, only the faint gleam of his eyes, visible in the faint starlight. All quiet so, for you blink away the thick, heavy curtain of sleep, your body protesting with a fresh wave of aches as you force yourself up from the hard ground of your bedroll. Night watch is a duty no cowboy ever takes lightly. The lives of the entire outfit depend on it. "Anything I should know about?" you ask, your voice still thick and rough with sleep. Luis, ever calm, gives a slight shrug of his shoulders, some coyotes yipping to the north, but they keep their distance. The cattle are settled. He hands you a tin cup, its contents still radiating a welcome warmth. Coffee still hot by the fire. You'll need it. Nights colder than a banker's heart. He is not wrong about the cold. The temperature has plummeted dramatically since sunset, a common occurrence in the vast, open country where there is nothing to hold the day's heat. Your breath now forms small, ghostly clouds in the air. You pour yourself a cup of coffee from the pot that is always kept warming at the edge of the fire's glowing embers. It's a thick, potent, and bitter brew, but the comforting heat of the tin cup between your palms is a welcome sensation, and you know the strong liquid will help sharpen your senses for the long, uneventful hours of your watch. After drinking it quickly, you head to where the night horses are picketed. Your gelding lifts his head as you approach, his ears pricked forward in recognition. Just a few hours' work. Old by you murmur, running a reassuring hand along the powerful muscles of his neck. Under the vast, clear, and cold night sky, the stars are scattered like diamond dust on a canvas of black velvet. A three-quarter moon hangs in the heavens, providing just enough ethereal light to navigate by, casting long, dancing shadows across the silent landscape. You pause for a moment, orienting yourself to the dark, sprawling mass of the herd nearby. Most of the cattle are lying down now, their collective breathing a soft, rhythmic symphony of quiet snorts and gentle sighs. With a soft nudge, you guide your horse forward to join the other three cowboys, who are already circling the herd. A slow, silent, and ever-vigilant patrol. As you begin your slow, deliberate circuit around the sleeping herd, you start to hum a familiar, melancholic tune. The melody is quiet, just loud enough for the nearest cattle to register your presence without alarm. The words of the song, which you keep to yourself, speak of a distant home and a love that was lost long ago. Common, poignant themes in the ballads of the cowboy. These songs are more than mere entertainment. They are a reflection of the profound and pervasive loneliness that is a fundamental, unspoken part of life on the trail, a way to give voice to the memories and feelings that occupy the quiet hours. Your mind begins to wander as you ride, drifting back through the years to remember how you first came to this life. 5 years ago, you were only 17 then, a naive farm boy from Missouri, whose head was filled with romantic dreams of adventure, gleaned from dime novels. The stark reality of cowboy life, however, quickly shattered those illusions. You discovered a world defined by brutal, relentless work, constant, imminent danger, and appallingly poor pay. The days were filled with a mind-numbing boredom that was punctuated by sudden, terrifying moments of sheer, heart-pounding terror. It was nothing like the stories. A sudden, fleeting movement at the edge of your vision snags your attention. It's a dark, slinking shape, moving with fluid grace through the long shadows at the perimeter of the herd. Your body tenses, and your hand instinctively drifts downward, hovering just above the cold, reassuring weight of the revolver at your hip. But then you relax, letting out a breath you didn't realize you were holding. You recognize the distinctive, lean silhouette of a coyote. This small predator is intelligent enough to maintain a respectful distance from the massive, horned cattle, likely just hoping to scavenge what it can, or perhaps catch a rabbit flushed from its hiding place by the herd's immense presence. You shift your weight in the saddle, trying in vain to find a position that offers some small measure of relief from the chronic discomfort. Your lower back throbs with a dull, grinding ache, while your legs have settled into that peculiar state of being both numb and painful at the same time, a sensation unique to men who spend most of their lives on horseback. There's a common joke among cowboys that they are more comfortable on a horse than on their own 2 feet. But the grim truth behind the humor is that after weeks on the trail, neither option offers much in the way of genuine comfort. The pain is simply a constant, a price the body pays for this unforgiving line of work. The night's chill deepens, a penetrating cold that seems to seep right into your bones. Your fingers, enclosed in simple leatherwork gloves, grow stiff and clumsy. These gloves offer very little protection against the biting cold, but they are essential during the day for preventing the searing pain of rope burns. You find yourself flexing them over and over again, a repetitive, conscious effort to keep the blood flowing and fight off the numbness. You know that in a sudden emergency, a stampede, a rustler, a fall, you will need the full dexterity of your hands to manage your rope or, if necessary, your gun. Staying ready is a constant, conscious battle. Time seems to stretch and distort during the long, silent hours of the night watch, its passage marked only by the slow, majestic procession of the stars across the sky. In this profound solitude, your tired mind can begin to play tricks on you. Harmless bushes can seem to writhe and take on menacing shapes, and the wind can whisper things that sound like voices. The true skill of a seasoned night rider lies in maintaining a state of high alert without surrendering to these jumpy, fatigue-induced nerves. It's a delicate mental balance that takes years to master, the ability to remain vigilant while filtering out the phantom threats born of darkness and exhaustion. A soft, unfamiliar sound slices through the night's quiet symphony, and it is not a sound from your own herd. You strain your ears, trying to place it. There it is again, the distinctive, sharp snort of a horse, but it's not one of yours. Your heart rate instantly quickens, and your senses sharpen as you scan the surrounding landscape. It could be nothing more than a wild Mustang passing through the territory. Or, more likely, it could be trouble. Rustlers often used the deep cover of darkness to try and cut out a few cattle from the edges of a large herd, a crime that could easily lead to violence if they were discovered in the act. You make a subtle, almost imperceptible signal to Jose, the cowboy riding the next section of the perimeter. His posture immediately becomes more alert. He has heard it too. Without a word, he subtly changes his course to investigate from his side, and you do the same from yours. Every movement is calculated and deliberate, careful not to betray any sense of alarm that might travel through the herd and cause a panic. Your right hand now rests lightly on the grip of your revolver, ready for action but not yet drawn. A stampede would be far more devastating to the outfit than the loss of a few cattle, so caution is the guiding principle. The night deepens into an even colder, more profound silence. Your back develops a deep, persistent ache that no amount of shifting your position in the saddle can alleviate. Your eyes burn with a fatigue so intense that you have to physically fight to keep them from closing, even for a second. This is the hardest part of the night watch, the moment when the duty becomes a true test of will. It is a grueling, internal battle, pitting your body's desperate, screaming need for sleep against the absolute necessity of maintaining the sharp focus required to protect the herd, your fellow cowboys, and your own life. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, the eastern sky begins to change. At first, it's just a subtle lessening of the profound blackness, a barely perceptible shift from pitch black to a deep, dark gray. Then, a pale, ethereal light begins to spread slowly along the horizon, gradually overpowering the faintest stars. An immense wave of relief washes through your entire body. Your long watch is nearly finished, and you have successfully guided the outfit through the darkest hours of the night without any serious incident. The quiet, uneventful passing of your watch is the highest measure of success. As the camp begins to stir with the first signs of life, Diego rides out to relieve you, his own face still creased with the remnants of sleep. After you report the strange horse noise from hours earlier, he nods and takes your place in the endless circle. You ride back toward the welcome sight of the campfire, a bone-deep weariness settling into your every fiber. It is a unique kind of exhaustion, one that makes your entire body feel as if it's made of lead. But you know there will be no rest for you yet. The day's work is about to begin, and night riders are always expected to pull their own weight, just like everyone else. The enticing aroma of coffee and frying bacon from the chuck wagon acts as a powerful restorative, making your empty stomach growl in anticipation. You dismount and head straight for the fire, where Cookie, his weathered face as impassive as ever, looks up from his work. "Grab some grub," he says, his tone less a friendly invitation than a simple statement of fact. "Boss wants to move out early today. Says there's water 10 miles ahead. He wants to reach by noon." The coffee, hot and strong, revives you somewhat, and the familiar meal gives you the energy you'll need to face the morning's work. The camp transforms from a collection of sleeping bodies into an efficient, working outfit with astonishing speed, the routine so familiar that it requires almost no conscious thought. You eat your meal quickly, then move to the remuda, the herd of spare horses, to saddle your fresh mount for the day. You roll your bedding tightly, secure it behind your saddle, and ride out to take your position. Today, you are once again assigned to the left flank, your job to ride the edge of the herd, keeping the cattle bunched together and preventing any adventurous strays from wandering off into the vast, open prairie. Even as you struggle against the heavy fog of fatigue from a night without proper sleep, your body moves with an ingrained, automatic grace. After years spent in the saddle, the subtle shifts of weight and the gentle pressure from your legs that guide your horse have become as natural and unconscious as the act of walking. Your mind, however, is another story. It struggles to stay present, frequently drifting off into a hazy, dreamlike state from which you have to repeatedly jolt yourself awake. You fight to maintain the constant, sharp vigilance that the job demands, knowing that a single moment of inattention could lead to disaster. The morning passes in a slow, monotonous procession under the climbing sun. The landscape rolls by, a seemingly endless expanse of grassland, stretching to the horizon in every direction. Its stark, minimalist beauty is broken only occasionally by shallow ravines or small, scrubby stands of trees that mark the path of seasonal creek beds. It is a beautiful country in its own vast and lonely way, though very few cowboys would ever use such a word to describe it. To most, the landscape is simply the backdrop to their work, notable only for the practical concerns of whether it provides enough water, grass, or shelter. A sudden commotion near the front of the herd shatters the morning's quiet monotony. One of the point riders is waving his hat in a wide, urgent arc, the prearranged signal for assistance. You immediately press your heels into your horse's sides, urging him from a slow walk into a steady lope. As you move forward to see what is happening, as you draw closer to the head of the long column of cattle, you can see the problem clearly. A significant portion of the herd has balked at crossing a small, unassuming ravine, causing a dangerous bottleneck that threatens to split the entire drive in two. You join several other cowboys who have converged on the trouble spot, and together you work to push the reluctant, nervous cattle forward. This is exceptionally dangerous work. The frightened animals, their eyes wide with panic, are turning and trying to break back through the press of the herd behind them. A longhorn's horns, which can easily span 6 feet from tip to tip, are lethal weapons when attached to a panicked, 1,000-pound animal. One wrong move, one stumble from your horse, could mean being gored through the leg or trampled under a sea of churning hooves in a matter of seconds. With the crisis at the ravine successfully handled, you return to your position on the flank, the surge of adrenaline from the dangerous encounter, temporarily overriding your deep-seated fatigue. The trail boss rides past, and as he does, he gives you a slight, almost imperceptible nod of his head. In the understated world of the cowboy, this simple gesture is the closest thing to a compliment or praise you are ever likely to receive. It is a silent acknowledgement of a job well done, a sign of respect from a man whose opinion is the only one that truly matters out here on the trail. And for you, it is enough. By midday, as the trail boss had planned, the drive reaches a small, winding stream. The water isn't much more than a shallow ribbon twisting its way through the vast prairie, but it's enough for the thousands of thirsty cattle to drink their fill and, just as importantly, for the men to refill their precious canteens. You take this rare opportunity to dismount and splash the cool water on your face, a blessed relief that washes away at least some of the ever-present trail dust from your sun-warmed skin. You drink deeply yourself before refilling your canteen and carefully securing the cap, ever mindful that water is the most precious commodity out here. There is no formal break for a midday meal on a cattle drive. The herd must always keep moving. Instead, cowboys eat in the saddle, relying on whatever sustenance they can carry in their pockets. Today, your lunch consists of a strip of beef jerky. You chew on the tough, salty, sun-dried meat, a task that requires a determined effort from your jaw. It is far from a satisfying meal, offering little in the way of pleasure or comfort, but it serves its primary purpose. It keeps the worst of your hunger at bay and gives you something to focus on besides your own profound and growing exhaustion as the afternoon wears on. A rabbit, startled by the approaching herd, suddenly bursts from its cover and darts across your path. In a single, fluid motion, faster than conscious thought, your hand drops to your revolver, drawing the weapon and aiming it before your brain has fully processed what is happening. You catch yourself just a fraction of a second before pulling the trigger. The instinctive reaction is a powerful testament to both your years of training and your frayed, jumpy nerves from the lack of sleep. It is a sobering reminder of how close you are to causing the very stampede you are employed to prevent. Jumpy today, ain't you? The voice belongs to Tom, a veteran cowboy riding nearby, his weathered face showing more amusement than genuine concern. Night watch will do that. To a man, he spits a stream of tobacco juice onto the dusty ground. Keep your iron holstered, unless you want the boss to tan your hide, firing a gun near the herd without a very good reason is one of the most serious, unforgivable sins of cattle driving. The sound alone could trigger a catastrophic stampede, potentially killing men and animals alike. You nod, both embarrassed and grateful that your mistake caused no real harm. The thought of finally reaching your destination in Abilene brings a complex and conflicting swirl of emotions. On the one hand, Abilene represents the end of the long, arduous drive. It means payment for your work and the promise of indulging in the simple luxuries of town, a real bed with clean sheets, a long, hot bath, and perhaps a visit to a saloon for a taste of whiskey and a game of cards. But on the other hand, its arrival also means facing the uncertainty of what comes next, the pressure of finding work for the winter or deciding whether to sign on for another drive. As the afternoon stretches endlessly before you, you find yourself operating on little more than pure instinct and grim determination. You are beyond tired now, having pushed through the wall of exhaustion into a strange state of numb, automated functioning. Each hour feels as long as 3, and you find yourself repeatedly counting the time until the day's ride will finally end, until the trail boss gives the signal to make camp. The promise of being able to dismount, eat a hot meal, and then finally, blessedly, surrender to a full night of uninterrupted sleep is the only thing that keeps you going. Finally, as the sun once again begins its descent, the trail boss signals for the herd to be turned toward a suitable bed ground for the night. It's a good spot, located in a gentle depression in the land, with a small stream running along one edge, providing both water and some natural containment for the thousands of cattle. After helping to settle the herd, you finally, gratefully dismount, your legs stiff and sore from the long day in the saddle, combined with your watch the previous night, nearly buckle as they take your full weight. You immediately turn your attention to your horse. As always, you look like you've been dragged through hell backwards, Cookie observes, with his usual lack of tact, as he hands you your plate of food. His comment is not meant to convey sympathy, cowboys. Don't deal in sympathy. It is simply a blunt statement of fact. Feel like it, too, you admit, accepting the hot plate gratefully. As you eat, the trail boss approaches. You're off watch tonight, he says, his tone making it clear that this is not a favor, but a practical decision. Get some sleep. Need you sharp tomorrow, you nod, too exhausted to speak, but filled with an immense sense of gratitude for the coming reprieve. As soon as you have finished your meal and returned your empty plate to Cookie, you unroll your bedding and prepare for a full night of sleep. Around you, the camp settles into its familiar evening rhythm. Men talk quietly in small groups, their voices a low murmur against the vast silence of the prairie. Some take advantage of the firelight to mend torn clothing or make small repairs to their gear. Others simply smoke in contemplative silence. You lie back, your body sinking into the ground, and watch as the first stars begin to emerge in the darkening sky, feeling a profound sense of peace settle over you. Lying on the hard ground, with the vast, silent prairie stretching out around you, a quiet satisfaction settles deep within your bones. It's a feeling that transcends the physical discomfort and the bone-deep fatigue. Despite the relentless hardship, the constant vigilance, and the ever-present dangers, there is a profound rightness to this moment. You have faced the day's challenges, performed your duties with skill and courage, and brought your part of this massive, moving enterprise safely to its resting place. This hard-earned sense of accomplishment, a private knowledge of work well done, is the cowboy's true and often only reward. As you hover on the edge of consciousness, your last coherent thought is one of simple, profound gratitude. It is a thankfulness for the most basic elements of survival, things a person living a civilized life would take for granted. You are grateful for the solid weight of food in your belly, a bulwark against the gnawing hunger of the trail. You are grateful for the relative safety of the camp and the companionship of the men around you. And most of all, you are grateful for the precious, uninterrupted gift of sleep that now beckons, promising to pull you down into a welcome, healing darkness, as completely as a stone sinking in deep water. The first pale light of dawn filters through your closed eyelids, pulling you from a deep and restful sleep. For a fleeting moment, your body feels almost weightless, but the illusion shatters as you begin to move. A familiar atlas of pain makes itself known. Your lower back screams in protest, and a dull, throbbing ache emanates from the shoulder you injured when you were thrown from your horse last month. After years on the trail, old injuries and new ones have blended into a single, chronic state of being. Every experienced cowboy carries this invisible map of pain with him, a permanent record etched into his very muscles and bones. The trail boss's voice cuts through the quiet morning rituals of the camp, delivering an announcement that instantly changes the day's atmosphere. River crossing today, he states, his words landing with a heavy thud. A collective, audible groan rises from the assembled men. This is not the sound of laziness, but of shared, hard-won experience. Every veteran rider here knows that river crossings are among the most dangerous and unpredictable parts of any cattle drive. They are a terrifying combination of deep, fast-moving water, thousands of nervous, powerful animals, and countless opportunities for sudden, irreversible disaster. You'll take left point, the trail boss says, looking directly at you. The assignment is a position of immense responsibility, and it fills you with a conflicting mixture of pride and deep concern. To be a point rider is to lead the entire herd, setting the pace and direction for 2,000 animals and the men who guard them. It is a clear vote of confidence from a man who does not offer praise lightly, likely a recognition of how you handled the ravine crossing yesterday. It is both an honor and a heavy burden, as the safety of the entire outfit will now rest, in large part, on your skill and judgment. As the outfit prepares to move out, a palpable undercurrent of tension runs through the crew. Every man saddles his horse with particular care, checking each strap and buckle twice, knowing that a simple equipment failure today could have fatal consequences. The usual morning banter is replaced by a quiet, focused intensity. These men understand that a successful river crossing is less about individual heroics and more about perfect, seamless coordination among the entire group. It is a severe test of both men and their animal partners, a challenge that reveals every weakness and demands absolute professionalism from all. As the morning wears on, the landscape begins to change, and soon you can smell the river on the wind, a distinctive, earthy scent of water, mud, and damp vegetation. The cattle sense it too, their pace quickening with an eagerness born of thirst. This instinct helps to move the herd forward, but the cowboys know it will become a significant problem once they reach the crossing itself. The animals' desperate rush for water will have to be carefully managed and controlled, transforming their natural drive into a source of potential danger that could undermine the entire, carefully planned operation. A scouting party that had ridden ahead returns with a report for the trail boss, who shares the news with you. "River's running high," he says, his face serious. "Current strong." This information confirms the danger, but it is followed by a crucial piece of good news. The scouts have located a promising entry and exit point about half a mile downstream, with gentle, sloping banks rather than the steep, muddy cliffs that can trap exhausted cattle. It is a significant strategic advantage, a small mercy from the landscape that might just make the difference between a successful crossing and a complete catastrophe. When the river finally comes into full view, a broad, deceptively calm ribbon of brown water cutting through the prairie, the trail boss calls a brief halt. He gathers the entire outfit for final instructions, his voice low and serious. The men listen with focused intensity, their faces grim, understanding that their very lives might depend on executing the coming plan with flawless precision. Tasks are assigned, contingency plans for potential disasters are established, and a series of hand signals is agreed upon. The atmosphere is not one of fear, but of sober, professional concentration before a difficult and dangerous job. Your role as a point rider is absolutely critical to the success of this operation. You and your horse will be among the very first to enter the dangerous, swirling water. You're tasked to establish the correct path that the thousands of cattle behind you should follow. If your horse handles the current well and moves with confidence, the lead animals are more likely to follow without panicking or balking at the water's edge. But if you or your mount run into trouble, that fear could flash through the entire herd in an instant, triggering a widespread panic that would be impossible to control. The time for planning and talking is over. You exchange a final, brief glance with Manuel, the experienced vaquero riding right point. His face is a mask of calm composure, but his eyes hold the same sharp awareness of the danger that you feel churning in your own stomach. He gives you a single, sharp nod, a powerful, unspoken gesture of solidarity and mutual trust between two men about to face a shared peril. Turning your attention back to the task at hand, you take a deep breath and gently nudge your horse forward, leading the immense herd toward the river's edge and the uncertainty that awaits within its current. The cold water of the river swirls around your horse's legs, rising quickly to your own knees as your mount moves deeper and begins to swim, its powerful shoulders churning beneath you. You feel the current pushing against you, a force far stronger than it appeared from the shore, and it takes constant effort to keep your horse aimed toward the exit point on the far bank. Behind you, you can hear a cacophony of splashing and the occasional panicked bellow as the main body of the herd enters the water en masse. But you cannot afford to look back. Your entire focus must remain on your own perilous passage through the water. Halfway across, the river's current intensifies, channeled by an unseen depression in the riverbed. Your horse begins to struggle, swimming hard but losing ground, being carried steadily downstream. For a terrifying moment, you fight the instinct to panic, knowing that any tension from you could doom you both. It feels as if the river might win. Then, your horse finds a new reserve of strength from deep within, its powerful legs churning through the brown water with a renewed and desperate determination. Stroke by difficult stroke, you slowly regain ground against the powerful flow, inching your way back on course. When you finally emerge onto the far bank, soaked and shaking from the exertion, your first instinct is not to celebrate your own safe passage. Instead, you immediately turn in the saddle to watch the rest of the crossing unfold. The scene behind you is one of controlled chaos. Hundreds of cattle are swimming at once, their massive horns creating the bizarre spectacle of a floating, thorny forest. Cowboys ride alongside the struggling animals, their shouts cutting through the roar of the water as they work to keep the herd moving in the right direction and turn any strays back toward the exit point. The job is far from over. The grueling process continues for more than an hour, a slow and exhausting effort of guiding thousands of stubborn and powerful animals across a dangerous natural obstacle. From your vantage point on the bank, you watch as several cattle get into trouble, requiring dangerous rescue operations by the riders. Miraculously, by the time the last of the herd struggles ashore, the losses are minimal, just 3 cattle swept downstream, and 1 cowboy who took a tumble but emerged unharmed. By the brutal standards of 19th century river crossings, the day has been a remarkable and significant success. You ride with the uncomfortable sensation of water squishing in your boots, and your clothes plastered cold against your skin. Despite the discomfort, however, you feel a deep and quiet sense of personal satisfaction. The trail boss entrusted you with the position of point rider, a role of immense responsibility and trust, and you handled it well, successfully guiding the herd and your horse through the most dangerous part of the crossing. In the unspoken, merit-based hierarchy of the cowboy outfit, performing well under pressure is what earns a man true respect, and that is a reward in itself. That evening, the mood around the campfire is more animated and celebratory than it has been in weeks. The successful crossing has lifted everyone's spirits. Cookie, in his own way, acknowledges the day's achievement by preparing a more substantial stew than usual. As the men eat, the stories begin to flow. The shared danger has unlocked their tongues, and they begin recounting tales of other river crossings from their pasts, some routine, some harrowing, and some utterly disastrous. It is a way of processing the day's events and passing on crucial, hard-won wisdom to the younger hands in the outfit. Saw a herd panic mid-river on the Brazos back. In 67 recounts Tom, the quiet veteran cowboy, his voice low and matter-of-fact, Water was high like today, but the banks were steep mud on both sides. We lost nearly 50 head of cattle, and 2 good men. The memory clearly still haunts him. One fella got his horse pinned between a panicked steer and a submerged log. He never had a chance. The other men share similar stories, not to frighten, but to remind each other of the respect the trail demands. An experience shared, even a tragic one, can save lives in the future. The trail boss, a man of few words, joins the circle around the fire. "Good work today," he says simply, the highest praise he is ever likely to give. The men accept it with a quiet, collective pride. Then, his focus immediately shifts to the future. Tomorrow we make up lost time. Dawn start, no one complains. They all understand the relentless economics of the drive. The herd is expected at the railhead by a certain date, and contracts must be fulfilled. Today's triumph is already fading into the past. Tomorrow will bring its own set of challenges, and the work must go on. As you prepare for your turn on watch, you lie back and look up at the star-filled sky. You know that these are the very same stars that are at this moment shining down over the homes and families that many of these men have not seen in months or even years. Some of the cowboys, you realize, have no homes to return to at all. For them, the trail is their only constant, and this rough, transient outfit of hardworking men is the only real family they have ever known. It's a life of profound rootlessness, bound together only by shared labor and a common, unspoken code of conduct. You reflect on the strange allure of this difficult life. For all its hardships, it offers a kind of pure freedom that few other occupations can match. Out here, there are no walls to confine you, and no overbearing boss is looking over your shoulder every minute of the day. A man's worth is measured not by his social standing, his wealth, or his book learning, but by his practical skills and his absolute reliability in a crisis. For men who are unsuited to the constraints of town life or conventional work, the trail offers a rare place where they can truly belong. Their eccentricities, accepted as long as they pull their weight. 2 full weeks have passed since the great challenge of the river crossing. They have been 2 weeks of grinding, dusty monotony, a slow and steady rhythm, broken only by the occasional excitement of a wandering steer or the threat of a distant storm. Both the cattle and the cowboys have settled into the familiar pattern of the drive. The herd now moves with less resistance each morning and beds down with a placid routine each night. But today, you can feel something different in the air. There is a subtle shift in the outfit's energy, a new lightness in their posture. Abilene lies just 2 days ahead. The banter around the camp, as the men saddle their horses, is lighter and more hopeful than it has been in weeks. The conversation is dominated by the simple, almost sacred pleasures that await them in town. "Reckon I'll get me a bath first thing," declares Tom, a rare smile cracking his weathered face. "Then maybe a shave and a haircut. Make myself presentable before hitting the saloons." The men dream aloud of these small luxuries: a real bed, a hot meal that isn't beans which have been transformed by months of deprivation into the ultimate symbols of reward and civilization. As you ride throughout the day, the landscape begins to show the subtle but unmistakable signs of approaching civilization. The vast, unfenced emptiness of the open prairie slowly gives way to the occasional farmstead in the distance, its fields neatly marked out and enclosed. The rough cattle trail you have been following for weeks is now crossed more and more frequently by established wagon tracks. And once, you even intersect a proper road, its surface hardened and rutted by the regular traffic of a world beyond the trail, a clear sign that your long journey through the wilderness is finally nearing its end. That final night on the trail, very few of the men sleep well. despite their accumulated exhaustion. A palpable sense of anticipation keeps them tossing and turning on their hard bedrolls, their minds far too full of the thoughts of town to settle easily into rest. You find yourself staring up at the familiar canopy of stars, but instead of feeling the usual sense of peace, your mind is racing. You mentally spend your meager wages a dozen different ways, imagining the taste of a thick steak, the pleasure of a real bed, and the burn of good whiskey, before finally drifting into a shallow and dream-filled sleep.